the price tag is one consideration for SMBs. So, and in reflection of the original title of this conversation is, what makes SMBs different? So what do they want different? Why do they want different systems? Do they want them at all?
So smaller companies are different in many ways. The major difference is that they tend to think shorter term. I mean, that's not to be rude, but they're dealing with day-to-day issues of survivability. And making this month's or this year's sales figures, they don't tend to have a 5-year plan, whereas a large quoted company would be thinking 5 or 50 years out. So small companies don't do that. So they have a smaller budget because they have less money. They also have shorter timescales. They're looking to get this thing up and running faster because A, they need it, and B, because they don't have the time or the money to spend on a 3-month implementation of getting somebody externally in to get this thing up and running. So pre-cloud, the old CRM implementation, which was the same for any software application, was that you bought the CDs and the manual, and then somebody came around and they installed it on your network and configured it for you. And that whole process, which was divided into 2 parts, there was the installation, which was actually configuring the software to work, and then there was the setup phase, and that would take 6 months or possibly, for a larger implementation, 2 years. They don't have that timescale, so they want something that's up and running fast, works out of the box. They don't tend to have an internal IT department, which is a mixture of a problem and a blessing. So they don't have anybody sitting there saying, is this GDPR compliant? How secure is the data? They just have the sales guy or the sales manager, which is very often the owner of the company, if it's a small company, saying, this is what I need, this is the functionality that I want. Have they got lots of other customers, and are they big names that I recognize? Fine, well, it must be all right then. They're not going to send you a 30-page IT questionnaire, which our larger customers do. And particularly government organizations will ask you all of these questions. They just say, look, if the NHS is using it, if IBM is using it, probably okay. I don't need to ask them any more questions. So, and then the other thing is that they're looking at configuring it themselves. So they won't have a database administrator. They won't have a sales administrator very often. They'll have the head of marketing or the head of sales or the owner will actually configure the software themselves. So it's a much faster and simpler sale from our point of view. So we will offer a 14-day trial, and most of our trialists will be up and running within 3 days, or certainly 5. Whereas if you were implementing Salesforce or Dynamics or something like that, you wouldn't be able to see what the system was like when it was finished for 3 months or more.
And so, if you do not misuse it, you get service help, such as to get your lead list or your Excels imported.
So we found that the biggest problem for our trialists in trying to trial the system is getting their data uploaded. Most of our customers have never done a data import before. They've never had to jiggle their spreadsheet to get the columns in the right order or to get the fields correct. This is not something that they've done in their lives before. They're not IT people. So just to short circuit that, we just say, look, just send us the spreadsheet, send us your data, and we'll load it for you. Within the trial, there's no charge for that. And we can do that because we know that if they've got that far and they're happy to send us their data, they're probably going to buy anyway. But also, it's easy to use, so it doesn't take us long to load the data. And that's part of the service.
It gets them over the biggest obstacle to adoption. That's the big thing that you do.
It's a heart opener, yeah? Such as you take one of my paints.
Yeah, and once the customer sees their data in the CRM system, it becomes their CRM system. And you've got
Hallelujah.
you've got an emotional buy-in. Look, I can see my data. I recognize this data. Yes, this makes sense. It's in the right place. I can see what I can do with it. It's very emotional.
Very plain and frank asking, what does one have to pay to have the sexiness of sales, service, and marketing from your end, month by month per user?
Well, you can start with nothing at all because we have a free edition. And we have a lot of customers using our free edition. And the free edition, it will give you the sales system, not the marketing or customer service support. It'll give you the free system up to 100 companies that you're dealing with. You will get the same software and almost the same level of support that you would get with the paid-for versions. And we've styled the free system in that it's capable enough to last a startup for their first year.
Yep.
So 2 users, 100 companies, that will give most people all they need for a year without suddenly finding that they have to upgrade because they run out of room or they need some functionality.